on, everybody? Welcome back to Fourth and Wrong, episode 21. Today is July 1st, 2024, which means that we have college football next month.
Oh, yeah. There's dude, the countdowns that we're getting. What's up, Willie Gray? What's up, Evan Grimes? The countdowns we're in right now is good. I've got Creed in 22 days. I am fired up about that.
As you should be.
Yeah, conference realignment started today officially. I start the Locked On South Carolina podcast tomorrow. There was only like 2 negative comments about that entire exchange, which was like shockingly low. Knock on wood.
We haven't done an episode yet. So
that's Topo Chico.
That's Topo Chico.
Okay.
Little margarita.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we have that. The game, the college football game will be in a what's up, Sierra? We got a lot of people in the chat. What's up, M? Beard Dog. We've got a lot of new faces in here. But yeah, so we got that. We have the college football game's going to be released. Media Days is in like 3 weeks. Apparently, Media Days, the deadline to we got Mike Toscano in here. We got a UConn fan in here.
Chris, turn your mic down a little bit.
Okay. Absolutely.
Yeah, man, big day. I had received some word that Florida State was going to make some sort of announcement today. I thought, told you privately, and then you send me a link that Josh Pate has gone live and he's talking about.
Yeah.
Florida State leaving the ACC.
I told
so
you
you got to tweet this out. Get some street cred.
Yeah.
Is this better?
Everyone's telling me to stop yelling now. I think it's just my voice.
I think it's better. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, back to
nothing's gone down yet, but the big, obviously you saw today, and we're going to talk about it here in a second. Texas and Oklahoma officially joined the SEC today. In even more big news, Cal, Stanford, and SMU officially joined the ACC. So yeah, it's a new calendar year for the conferences, and so I believe Florida State, if they want to be out of the ACC by next season, 2025, they have to announce they're leaving, and essentially say, hey, we're going to be gone by August 13th of this year. They have to announce that. So
I thought you.
I think it'll be July still.
Your tweet that you had today, because I think we forget because of all of the news that's around Texas. Like Texas is like specifically, not Texas and OU, but Texas only, which is
when you get a Pitbull concert. I mean, you can't fault the Pitbull concert. That's just high level.
We're gonna get into this. Fuck it, let's just do it now. Let's just get into it now. So, I think that there's a lot to talk about with. Wait, Texas had Pitbull perform yesterday. This is from Holden. And the barricades got pushed over and people got trampled off to a hot start. So here's the thing. I was thinking this yesterday, and it was like, imagine if you would have told yourself in what year that the SEC, that Texas is joining the SEC, and the way they're announcing it is a Pitbull concert. And then I kept thinking, I was like, I don't know if any year would have made sense. I don't know if there's a year that I've been like, yeah, that's time sensitive and relevant. Like Pitbull has always been, I feel like, the same level of besides like 2015, I think Pitbull has been the same level of star that he's always been.
Dude, Mr. Worldwide?
Mr. Worldwide. Dude, there was a band in like 2013 or 2011 when all of his lyrics were him just quoting other people's lyrics. Like he's like there was some song that he did, the one with Usher, where he's like, it was like, give me everything tonight. And he was like, Mr. Worldwide, when I step in the room, I'm a hustler, baby. Like, what? Dude, this is all other people's lyrics that have already been made. Yeah. What are we talking about? We probably shouldn't do a ton of Pitbull lyrics. I'm going to lose some street cred.
I was just in the middle of Googling best Pitbull lyrics of all time. I'll come up with some as you speak.
I don't have anything else. I will tell you that just from a personal standpoint, I'm back home in Columbia, which is nice. I have lost my charger for my beard trimmer, and it's a tough scene right now.
You could always just go razor on the neck there.
Fuck that. No. What is this?
No, you don't do that?
No. I'm not trying to look that good. I'm not trying to look like Pitbull. Anyway, Pitbull. I tell you what, it's going down. I'm yelling timber. Fantastic song. I will say that one. What
Ooh,
else?
look, here's a lyric. Look up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's no, it's just me, and a damn thing changed. And then
Pitbull.
someone got this article that I'm on, the comment is, "Not a day goes by that I don't see Pitbull flying over my rooftop, dressed in white linen from head to toe and drinking a Capri Sun."
There was. I remember there was this person that used to do stuff with us with STS. Her name was Lucy something. And she was like she worked at an ad agency, and she got us to deal with like Goodyear. We're like Goodyear for the Cotton Bowl, and they would do this like tire statue thing like every year for the Cotton Bowl. And I remember like when we had to do these like initial talks and talk about like what we're going to do for like the social media stuff and that push. She very like frankly was like she's like, yeah, I'm a huge Pitbull fan. And I was like, that's funny, that's good. And she's like, I'm serious. I'm a huge Pitbull fan. And I was like, why did you even add that information in? I didn't need to know that at all.
Yeah, it's almost like you would tell that to someone if you were trying to make them think worse of you.
Yeah, which we do. We do
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. I always like, one of my many flaws, I'm a Bama fan. One of my biggest flaws, I'm a Pitbull fan. How about this, Tyler? Last night when they did this announcement, there were Texas fans reporting that there were. This is actually Barstool, Texas, so it's true. They said there was estimated to be 1 million fans at this event.
Come on.
There's no way, right?
What was at the event aside from Pitbull? Which I mean, I could see him getting 1,000,000, but what else?
You can see Pitbull getting 1 million people.
That was obviously a joke.
Okay, I was like, what? So did you watch any of it on FSU Network?
No, I did not watch any of that.
Yeah, okay.
There you go,
TriStar.
TriStar.
He's been doing the whole shtick is just like keeping the what is this? Why is this up?
It's been up since the beginning.
Oh, my bad. It's just keeping the conferences like to their original numbers. Anyway, so last night they were getting ready to announce this, and it was like on SEC Network. They had a countdown. They were like live in Austin. And listen, you've been to Austin recently. I've never been. I've heard it's awesome. I want to go. I want to go to Austin for sure. Like I got the tacos thing in the background. I heard they got a lot of tacos, great live music, all the above.
Great city.
So I think that part's cool.
I was in Austin last year for Texas, West Virginia.
Okay.
And there was a much better concert before the game, Nelly.
Seen him live several times. Now that I would have gotten excited about.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So they had this event last night, and they're explaining everything. Like, oh my gosh, like this is like going to be huge. This is sick. We've got this team coming in, or we got this guest coming in. We're gonna have Vince Young on. We have, by the way, Longhorn Network finally gone. Very last thing they show, of course, the Rose Bowl from 2005 again for the millionth time.
Great game.
The weirdest, fantastic game. The weirdest part for me was when they were doing this, they had Greg Sankey comes out and he's talking to the crowd, and it's like a big crowd, and they've got the cheerleaders on stage, they've got like the big cannon on stage, this whole thing, and he's going on about how like they're going to have new memories, new rivalries, new championships, new titles. And in my mind, I was like, man, this is crazy. They're giving this much of attention to Texas, right? He also opened his entire thing by saying, all right, all right, all right.
Yeah, which, I mean, you got to.
Sure.
Or you don't have to.
No, you don't. You don't at all. And then he closed by saying, he goes, listen, I know that I'm going to get out of here because I'm the only thing standing between you guys and Pitbull. And everyone was like, ah. It reminded me of like something like from like the Saved by the Bell episode when it's like, we've got Tony coming up next. I don't want to sit here between this raucous crowd at the max. Like it was awful. It was awful.
Was McConaughey Belding in that scenario?
I don't know. This is good.
Yeah.
I like Holden. It's good.
There's a couple of Holdens. That's my son's name.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought it was weird. I think that here's my main thing on it is for.
Oh no. Oh no. Am I gone or is Chris gone? We need some W's in the chat if Chris is gone and I am still here. This is not good. Okay. All right. Chris is gone. Okay. Yeah, so Pitbull, huh? No. Ever try to do a podcast solo when you're used to doing things together? It is this is gonna be tough. Let's get some ideas in the chat here. Those of you that made fun of Chris for his internet, you've been rewarded. He's gone. I'm curious to know. So we'll get to the OU side of things here in a minute. I saw some comments in the chat of some thoughts that Florida State might become irrelevant if they join the SEC. I actually happen to disagree, and it's obvious. I'm a Florida State fan, so that might be one thing. But number two, I actually think they're pretty held back right now. They're pretty negative. Hey, look who it is.
Unfucking real. I'm so fucking tired of this.
The internet haters they received a reward there.
Yeah, as they should. I don't. You said the same. I mean, I haven't been home in like a month, so I don't know what the problem could be. But whatever. Anyway, we're back.
All right. So yeah, I think we were talking about how Texas is getting all the pub here. Not a lot of talk about OU.
Yeah.
I did see today there was a picture of a guy. So they put like all the SEC team flags up on OU's and it's like someone like ripped the Texas one out and threw it on the ground. So yeah, the rivalry is still the Red River Shootout, as I don't think you're allowed to call anymore.
All I was trying to say before the internet decided to be awful again was it's funny to me that a program and fan base that has prided themselves on being above everything, like above conferences, programs, other universities, they're just above everything. It's wild to me that all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, like we're so excited to join the SEC. I mean, they threw a Pitbull concert to celebrate joining the conference.
Yeah, I just don't know. There's got to be a lot of great bands from Austin, Texas.
Had to be a bigger name.
I'm not seeing where Pitbull fits in the equation. Anyways, this is going to be fun. I know that people, including us, originally were pretty downtrodden about all the change that is happening, but yeah, it's I think it's gonna be great to have Texas and OU in the SEC. I think it adds a lot of marquee games to the slate in the conference, a conference that has a lot of marquee games already. Yeah, and so we'll see who else gets added to the SEC if it happens. I still am under the impression that Florida State will go to the Big 12 or the Big 10. I would rather be in the SEC. Obviously, it's a tougher conference, but for me personally as a fan, like I would love living in Atlanta, especially. It's an SEC town.
Yeah,
I'd love to be in the mix with everybody, and it's also easier to get to games on the road.
Yeah,
for SEC fans, if they're wanting to go to games, Tallahassee, it's the very top of Florida, so a lot of fans aren't going to have to travel too far there. I think it would fit perfectly. We'll see.
Evan brings up a good point. This is why I don't get it. Like y'all don't have the academics for the Big Ten.
Well, so Pate made a point of this last night. I watched his show talking about it. This is no longer about like the institutions per se, and it's not about garnering TV markets either anymore. It's a whole new ball game. So I know the AAU status, which is like an academic thing. It's not the elite basketball players in high school.
Yeah.
It's all about, if you have funding for academic research and things like that, and you have to be a top rated school. I don't think that's going to come to play here. So we'll see. I still think Big Ten, but like I said, I'd prefer the SEC. So we'll see.
Okay. I like it. Last thing about this, because we're officially in the Power 4 era now. There were some pretty cool goodbyes in social media things that we saw. The Big 12 doing the Toy Story 3 So Long Partner thing, that was pretty good.
With all the times they've beaten Texas and Oklahoma in sports.
Did they list that?
Oh, you didn't see that at the end?
No.
So as it's like fading out and all the toys are left behind, they're looking out into the distance, and then they just start showing clips of like TCU beating Texas and Oklahoma in a bunch of sports.
Oh, that's awesome. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I mean, because I do listen. I think that these are two awesome fan bases. I've been saying this for years. Like, they'll fit in with the SEC because they're arrogant, they're obnoxious, and they think that their team is more important than any other fucking team on the face of the earth. That's why they will fit in with this conference. But man, they both deserve to be knocked down a peg or two, like, for sure. And I don't mean to bring up pegging on the show because I know we said we'd stop doing it, but I think that both those.
Look, I mean, we don't kink shame on this podcast. We've said that for years. So if you're into that, whatever. But let's just try not to get our heads in the gutter.
Looking at you, Washington State and Oregon State. Listen, here's the thing. Did you see the best part from all of this was? Did you see the SEC shorts video they put together?
Like recently?
Today?
Or no, I didn't see it today.
Oh, Tyler, it was good. It was like they don't ever miss, but what they did today was so good. So they have like the regular cast, right? Of people like on the show, but they added several different people from SEC comedy, like little like metaverse, if you want to say, like Josh Mancuso, who I love. Oh, I was supposed to play. He reached out to me to do some golf thing with him, and I forgot to respond. I just realized that, so I guess I'm not doing that anymore. But Josh Mancuso, the guy who does the videos where he's like, "Hey, we need to pick out a mascot," and for Tennessee or for whoever, like you know what I'm talking about? Tall, skinny guy with a beard. Funny Mane was on it. And then the big guy who does like all like the food takes and then the SEC stuff and the people from the South on Instagram. You know who I'm talking about. He almost came on the podcast last year and he had to cancel like very, very last minute. But those three were on it, and they were just like bringing. What's that?
You didn't get the invite, huh?
No, I did not. Dick. I'm funnier than funny, man. So suck my dick. Excuse my language.
Seems like the people spoken.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe so. My humor's not for everyone because it also involves factual stuff about football, and people get very upset about that. Anyway, so this whole listen. First off, don't talk shit to me about my comedy. I'll bring up the picture right now it's on Facebook of you at my comedy show.
Oh yeah,
with your ex.
I like your
dying
laughing. I love your comedy.
I appreciate that. Anyway, so we talk like they do the show, and there's like they do the skit where it's like 5 minutes long. And at one point, dude, they're talking about the conference, and they bring in somebody with an Oregon State and a Washington State jersey or shirt, and they're like, "Hey, we've got two people that would love to be along for the ride and play with you guys," and blah blah blah. And the guy in the middle is TriStar is wearing this shirt that says, "Not the step conference, just the conference that stepped up," and I fucking died. Like the stepdad shirts. Oh my god, it was so good.
That is good.
Yeah.
Quick Pitbull lyric for you. So transition. Been around the world like the sun. I've seen more breasts than your newborn son.
He's only seen 2 usually, right?
Not according to him.
When you breastfeed,
smash Shake Senora. I don't know if
hold on. When you breastfeed, is it always the same one?
No.
You mix them up, huh?
Yeah, because sometimes the milk gets drained down, so you got to go to the other one.
Okay.
Let it build back up.
Fair. We're learning a lot.
Some perform better than others in most occasions,
Yeah.
But gotta switch it
up.
How
long do you think it takes for me to completely overreact to what TriStar's saying in the comments?
President of the United States. I don't know what he said. I don't think he knows what he said.
We want to talk about the debate? That was awesome. That was unbelievable. Hey, listen, I want to say something real quick about politics. Okay.
Yeah, let's go.
Here's the thing. We're not going to get into politics on this podcast. I've finally grown up and learned my lesson. I also have very different politics than I used to. I will say that as well. But just guys, normalize not hating people based on who they're voting for. We're like, we all have different opinions. We all have different backgrounds. Who, like, you know, you feel as passionate as you want, but just normalize not hating someone based on who they vote for, because I guarantee you that makes up a very small part of who they are. And that's all I have to say about that. Back to
Should we talk about Big 12? No seamless transition there. Oh no, the internet's choppy again.
Yeah, because I had no idea what you said.
Okay, good. I want to cover the Big 12 real quick. We started it last week. We don't have to go in depth, but we wanted to pick some boom or bust teams. I'm going to give you a boom team in mind.
Give it to me.
You ready? Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm.
All right. 12-2 in 2021. Almost won the Big 12 title. Started out 5-0 in 2022. Then went 2-6 down the stretch. 2023 started kind of inverse. They went 2-2, including a 33-7 home loss to South Alabama. But what I don't think people are remembering is after that game, they went 7-1 in their last 8 Big 12 games before losing to Texas in the Big 12 title. I forgot that they were even in the Big 12 title game last year. And then they beat A&M in the bowl, which I don't think bowls are very tough to, like, A&M didn't have a coach. Yeah. I think a lot of their starters were out, but they made it a 10-win season by beating A&M in the bowl. They have 19 returning starters. I'd say the toughest team in the new Big 12 is Utah. Probably they get Utah at home. They probably have the best running back in the country, Ollie Gordon. Their top 2 receivers are back. I like their schedule. Their quarterback is not Gundy's son. He actually transferred, I think, which is weird. Yeah. But Alan Bowman last year threw 14 picks, so he's going to need to cut those down. But I like Oklahoma State a lot this year. Mike Gundy's 20th year at Oklahoma State.
That's crazy. 20 years. Mm-hmm. He's a man. He's 60 now. That's insane. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you could say they're a boom team because they're like preseason ranked in Athlon, like 12th in the country, or Lindy's. I will tell you this. I'm not saying this is a boom team or not, but I am saying I'm surprised that we aren't seeing more out of – where's the Big 12 thing? Damn it. Well, I guess I just didn't make one. That's fine. Hey, there it is.
There you go.
So I'm surprised we're not hearing more about a couple of teams. 1, UCF. 2, I will say this with a lot of restraint and concern. TCU, only because TCU 2 years ago really, really got in the transfer portal and got some elite players. They got like a lot from Alabama. Seems like they don't have a ton coming back from like an experience standpoint, but like that's a team. I just feel like they have to be a team that you always like look out for in the preseason because we know where they were in the preseason a couple of years ago and they ended up going to the national championship game. So like, so, I mean, maybe that was just like lightning in a bottle. I don't know, but it seems like you know. Sonny Dykes has been able to do it once. Like maybe he'll be able to do it again.
I like that it is also. They've still got Kendall Briles, OC, and then they brought in Andy Avalos, who was Oregon's DC, and then he was the head coach at Boise State, and that didn't really work out. So now he's back as a DC at TCU. Yeah, I think I kind of like. Yeah, you've got JoJo Earl there now.
Yeah, he's good.
Boise's best receiver. He went over 1,000 yards last year. He transferred into TCU. Trey Sanders?
Nah. Is he still there? No, he's
still there.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Well, either way, I think they could be good. And Kendall Briles, like whether you love him or hate him, you know, he's a pretty good play caller. Now I'll tell you the other one that I'm just surprised about that like nobody's high on is UCF. and maybe it's because for whatever reason, I'm still having PTSD of Gus Malzahn in 2013, 2014 at Auburn. I just think that like it seems like a lot of people have caught up to his scheme and his play calling, all that kind of stuff. But they have done a really good job at recruiting, for one. They have also done they had Amari Knight, who I'm pretty sure is a transfer from Bama.
KJ Jefferson at quarterback.
So that's the main thing. Like they return a lot on offense. They return. Let's see here, 3 or 5 on the offensive line. They obviously lose. They lose a really good receiver who ended up getting drafted, I think, pretty high by the Patriots. What was the kid's name? Because he was at Bama. What's up, Auburn Superfan number 2? He was at Auburn. He's at Bama, and then he was at
Baker.
Trayshawn Holden.
Trayshawn Holden.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think he got drafted pretty high. Either way, so I understand you lose that, you lose your starting quarterback, but you get KJ Jefferson, and no one's talking about it. Like no one's talking about him, and Jefferson is not necessarily a dual threat running back. What's up, Robert? We got a lot of the old school people in here today. He's not a dual threat quarterback, but he can run. And he will be able to be a little bit like I think Andrew C. nails on the head right here. UCF won't win the Big 12, but they will be a pain in the ass for someone in the Big 12 for sure. And like right now they're like preseason ranked in Lindy's 43rd. I think they're like 7th or 8th in the conference. Like they're 9th in the conference preseason. I just have a hard time believing with all of the talent they have like on that roster because here's the thing too. They have recruited well in the Big 12 in general. And they've also been able to get in like the transfer portal because, like, listen, you know just as well as I do. A lot of those like 3-star underrated recruits from Florida that like went unnoticed, those are guys that are absolute stud athletes that are going to pop on the field. And I just think that like if you have a roster that's predominantly full of people like that, with a good head coach, a proven head coach, Ted Roof is the D coordinator. I cannot believe that man still has a job. I waited on him at the Brick in like 2007 or 2008 when he was the DC at Georgia Tech. But they were ranked 122nd in the country in run defense last year, so that's got to improve. But other than that, man, like they were ranked in the top 10 nationally in total offense and rushing offense. Like that part of Malzahn's game has not changed.
Yep, and they get R.J. Harvey back at running back. He had 1,400 yards last year, 16 touchdowns. It was Javon Baker, by the way, last year. He was 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns. They do return Kobe Hudson, who I believe – did he go to Auburn?
Sounds like it. That sounds like an Auburn name.
Second team Big 12 last year at receiver. They went 6-7 last year, but it was their first year in the Big 12. This is Gus's 4th year there. He's gone 9-4, 9-5, and then 6-7. I think they'll take a step up. Their win total is 7.5 with juice to the over. But yeah, man, I like the schedule. They have an interesting matchup against Florida in October.
They won't lose. They won't lose in the first 4 games, and if they beat Florida, they will start out 6-0.
Look, I mean, who knows where Florida's going to be at? I think the hardest part of their schedule is later in the year. But that Florida-Miami game is so interesting to me, man, because I think both teams need that win in a big way. Because Miami has the expectations, and if they lose that game, I think they could be set up for a down spiral. And then for Napier, I mean, it's just like if you lose to Miami week 1, how much like you're going to have no recruiting momentum. And you haven't even hit the meat of your schedule yet. That's a big game. But
well, you look at UCF, like their schedule. They have like from the Big 12 standpoint, they play Arizona, Utah, and West Virginia.
Dude, they're 39-6 at
state, but what is happening with okay. They only play one team in the preseason top 5 of the Big 12.
Yeah, and it's Utah at home on a Friday night. UCF since 2017 is 39-6 straight up at home, including 5 wins over ranked teams. And one of those wins was last year when they beat number 15 Oklahoma State 45-3. So, yeah, man, I think UCF is definitely a dark horse in the Big 12, if not, you know, making it to a bowl, and potentially giving some scares into the top teams in the Big 12. You like them
Yeah,
over 7.5 this year?
I do. I do. I mean, also, you just look through the rest of the conference, man. Like, there's like everyone that they have predicted to be at the very bottom, like or in the bottom half of that conference. I will say, I think Arizona State is going to be horrible. I don't
Yeah.
trust Kenny. What's his name?
Gillingham,
Dillingham as the head coach at like 12 years old.
25.
How old is he?
He's legit, like, I think he's definitely in his mid-30s.
Hold on. See, because his whole thing is like he's like trying to build things the right way. He's 34 years old. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
He's trying to build things like, dude. Okay, April 20th. He just turned 34. He's trying to build things the right way. He wants people that want to come play at Arizona State, and I get that. Like, but if you're a school like, I don't know, help me out here, like Colorado, even you could make that, or if you're like, if you've taken over your alma mater and it's a place like that has had some success, recent success, you can make that claim. But that's not Arizona State, and especially going into year one in a new conference, it's like you need to go get as much help as possible. And it's great to sit there and think that like I want guys that want to play here. Well, Arizona isn't like a talent deficient state from a recruiting standpoint, but it's not like it's full of like rich recruiting talent by any means. I think they're going to be pretty bad. I will tell you, I think the thing that's interesting is Houston, which still seems like
bad.
the most odd, out of place. Them and Cincinnati seem like the most odd, out of place Power 5 school in the country. But you have Willie Fritz from Tulane that's going to be there at Houston.
Yeah, I think they're gonna they have the lowest win total in the conference at 3.5. The over is -160, so they are expected to win potentially 4 games. But yeah, man, Houston, Arizona State, BYU, Cincy, and Baylor, to me, are the teams that are gonna duel it out for worst team in the conference. I don't know that any of those teams have a real chance at vying for anything. I saw Cincinnati, all team name, Dante Corleone, who's like a big time D tackle for the draft next year. He's having some pretty serious health issues. He's got blood clots going on, so that's a big loss for Cincinnati. Um, I think maybe my biggest boom team is so maybe if we don't count Oklahoma State because they're already ranked pretty high, Iowa State. Matt Campbell's been on the radar for everybody as one of the top coaches in the game. I wouldn't say Iowa State's necessarily. I mean, they went 7-5 last year, which look, Iowa State's one of the worst like programs in the country. Like it's hard to win at Iowa State.
Right. But they're always like, I feel like recently they're always like talked about, and then you look at them like, oh.
I think this is a big year for Matt Campbell because he's going to stop being on the radar of all these bigger jobs. I don't know why he's kept staying there.
No clue.
But I totally agree with you. Like, I feel like we always talk about them being kind of like a sneaky team in the Big 12, and then they don't live up to expectations. But I do like their schedule. Let me find them here. But they do have to go on the road to Utah, which sucks. But
North Dakota, at Iowa, Arkansas State, at Houston, Baylor, at West Virginia. So you talk about like Iowa's going to be probably a loss, but you should start out 4-1. At West Virginia is going to be tricky. I mean, like they're currently ranked ahead of preseason, ahead of West Virginia in the preseason. They're ranked 24th. Then you get UCF, Texas Tech, at Kansas. So you need to win probably 2 out of 3 of those, and you should. Cincinnati at home, at Utah, and Kansas State. I will say this: Utah and Kansas State on the road and then at home to close out your season. From what I've seen in Big 12 schedules, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm overreacting, but that feels like the toughest closeout to a schedule we've seen in the conference. The other thing is too is like, where do you like you mentioned earlier, UCF is 39-6 at home since whatever year. You know that Iowa State hasn't finished undefeated at home in a season of football since like 1934.
That's kind of crazy. I do have a stat here. Since 2020, Iowa State is 10-3 straight up in Big 12 games. So they've been pretty decent. But yeah, no, they're not Ames isn't a place that you just feel uncomfortable walking into to win. Sure. Like their quarterback, Rocco Becht. Rocco, great name, great quarterback name. Threw 5 picks in his first 5 games last year, and then ended the season with 23 touchdowns and 8 picks. So he only threw 3 more the rest of the year. He threw for an Iowa State record in the bowl game, 446 yards. He won Big 12 Offensive Freshman of the Year last year. He set the school record for touchdown passes by a freshman, breaking Brock Purdy's record. They have a deep running back room. They return their top 4 pass catchers, 9 returning starters on defense, and they return 90 starts on the O-line.
I love that.
Very experienced team. Like I said, I think some of their tougher matchups outside of the Utah game, Kansas State, UCF. I guess Iowa's a tough game on the road, but a lot of their tougher games are at home. I think Iowa State could surprise. Their win total 7.5. So when I say surprise, maybe they're an 8-9 win team. But I think they'll be pretty good, man. I mean, if they're not, I think Matt Campbell loses his respect as one of those maybe top 2 tier, like as far as coaches that need to go to the next level. Maybe he gets out of the conversation for those jobs going forward if they're a disappointment again this year.
It does feel like he's missed his window if he's trying to go somewhere else. And that window might have closed last year when they lost to Ohio at home in week 3, because that's pretty tough.
Yeah. Here's a fun fact for you, Chris. Do you know the nickname of the Iowa State Kansas State game? They've been playing it for 103 straight years. Farmageddon.
Oh, I did know that. That's a good one.
That is a good one.
Farmageddon is pretty good. I thought it was called the Dust Bowl or something stupid. That's good though. Farmageddon. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the coaches' hot seat rankings?
Yeah, bring them up.
Okay. I will. I'm about to do it right now. So Jesse Simonton, our buddy from On 3, came out with the pressure rankings for SEC head coaches. And I'm going to read them off to you. Tell me what you think. So this is starting from 1 through 16, 1 being the most pressure of any team. Ready, coach? Sam Pittman, Billy Napier, Kalen DeBoer, Clark Lee, Shane Beamer, Brian Kelly, Steve Sarkisian, Lane Kiffin, Kirby Smart, Eli Drinkwitz, Hugh Freeze, Mark Stoops, Josh Heupel, Brent Venables, Jeff Lebby, and Mike Elko.
So Mike Elko has the least pressure this year?
Yeah. Brent Venables has the third least at 14. So here's where I am
extended like a week ago, so that's probably not a lot of pressure there.
But going through back at the top, Pittman versus Napier, I think from a fan standpoint and a public standpoint, Florida, there's a lot of people that have like there being more pressure on Florida because they think that Florida's going to be worse, and people have been saying Napier's going to lose his job, for a long time. I will say this, man, that debacle that Florida had last year against Arkansas, where they had no business losing that game to a 4-8 Arkansas team, that was a big blow to Napier because he should have made a bowl game after that. And they started out 5-2, and they ended up the season 5-7. But I agree that Pittman should be at 1 and Napier should be probably at 2. Kalen DeBoer at 3, I think, is interesting because it's a glimpse into like right behind it is Clark Lee and Shane Beamer. 4 of those 5 coaches, right? Pittman, Napier, Clark Lee, Beamer, and DeBoer. Everyone on there but DeBoer is in jeopardy of losing their job with a bad season.
Yeah, I think that's more just the program status of Alabama and having to follow up Saban more than anything.
Right. And it also tells me that there's maybe the leash isn't as long as people might think it is, even with how good of a job he's done in recruiting with DeBoer. Because what matters is on the field. No one cares if you can recruit. If that's all you're going to be able to do. Brian Kelly at 6, Steve Sark at 7, Lane Kiffin at 8, then Kirby Smart, and then Eli Drinkwitz. So what's confusing me here is Eli Drinkwitz ahead of Hugh Freeze. Eli Drinkwitz and Hugh Freeze, I feel like should be much higher on here because I think with what do you call it? I think that with Drinkwitz, people keep forgetting that like last year was great, man. You had an 11-win season. You got a lot of talent coming back. But let's not forget that you had a losing record in 3 of your first 3 years. So you've had a losing record in 3 of your 4 total years at Mizzou, and then an 11-win season. You're supposed to, with like what the schedule provides for you from an optimistic standpoint, you should be able to get to at least 10 wins. Like Missouri fans, I've always said this, they are Vandy with a fake ID. They have logical, good fans that understand sports and that understand like expectations, and they are much more logical than SEC fans as a whole. But with what they did last year, what they have returning, and what that schedule affords them to do, I think if you're not making a playoff this year, or you're not in contention for it, like you're in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely higher expectations at Missouri than we've seen since they first joined the conference, and they were like pretty decent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't take a big step backwards. I kind of feel that same way about Norvell this year. You know, he had 2 losing seasons in a row. And then, you know, he's gradually gotten back up, but now all those players that got him to where they were last year are pretty much gone. So I feel like there's a lot of pressure there to be like, all right, we're still a good program. It wasn't just a couple players here and there. And that, I think you say the same thing for Missouri. Now they return a lot of their talent, which is nice.
Yeah.
They do lose a couple key pieces, but Hugh Freeze, I think, is interesting because I just thought it was an interesting move to not bring in a better quarterback in the offseason.
Yeah. You get Walker White, who's the freshman 4-star Elite 11 kid. I mean, I wonder, like, I don't know where it comes from, but I do know that Hugh Freeze's whole thing has been like he's a quarterback guru and he's a quarterback whisperer. Like Bo Wallace had back-to-back 3,000-yard passing like seasons. Like I mean, how bad would Peyton Thorne have to be to not succeed in this offense?
I mean, I think we saw it last year, right? It's not like he was a freshman.
That's true, but he also had horrible receivers. Horrible.
Yeah, they should definitely have an upgrade there, albeit young talent. By far a lot more talent at the receiver position. So I think you got to put your trust in Freeze, maybe not with cell phones, but definitely with offense. And so I think you just say if he sees the practices every day, he knows that Thorne has the capability. So, but I just found it a little intriguing that he just neglected to bring. I don't know. Did they bring anybody in? Let me look. Peyton Thorne,
No.
Walker White, Holden Garrett.
And they lost Robbie Ashford.
Yeah, they did.
Robbie Ashford's in South Carolina now.
Is that where he went? I didn't realize that.
No.
He's good. So, I think he started his career at Oregon, so this, you know, it's just like,
yeah,
it's hard to keep.
But I do think that with Freeze, I've asked this on shows, and I remember asking this to Duke the Scoop from On 3, and I was like, hey man, like what would it take for him to be on the hot seat? And he was like, it would have to be a catastrophe, like a 3 or 4 win season. And I'm not saying that's wrong by any means. Like he has his finger on the pulse of Auburn sports way more than I do. But at the same time, this is a fan base and an administration and a program that has never had patience for anything. So with the schedule, with what they have coming back, and I think with the expectations of what they should be able to achieve, I mean, I just would doubt that they would be if they go 5-7 and they have you have to have a winning record. They've had 3 straight losing seasons. So you have to.
6-5 the year before that.
What's that?
And they were 6-5 in 2020. So though that is a winning season, that's not good enough at Auburn.
No. It's you're like 6-5, 5-7. I'm sorry, 6-7, 5-7, 6-7. You got blown out in your bowl game, which again, the bowl game doesn't matter as much. But I just think that with Hugh, I expect Auburn to be good this year. I really do. I think they'll be 8-4, 9-3. But I also think that if they don't and they just stay status quo, what are the building blocks of keeping Hugh in the positive momentum and optimism going into next season? Like, is it Perry Thompson and Cam Coleman going off and having a great year? Is it like you beat Bama or you like
landing Juju Lewis?
Is it signing Juju Lewis, like, which could easily happen? Like
I kind of
a lot of questions.
Keeping Napier afloat at Florida. It's like he landed this kid that clearly only came to Florida because of him. He's a Texas kid. He was loyal to Napier. And like I feel like if anything, if they have a bad year, it's like that is the calling card of having him stay, because if he leaves, Lagway's out, and you really are starting with even less talent than you had before. So maybe if Auburn can steal a guy like Juju Lewis from USC, maybe that gives you the building. Look, you say, look, we had Peyton Thorne to kind of bridge us to the new era, and that's what you would have to sell. And then you bring him in with now second year guys and the two receivers.
Yeah,
maybe picking at that point, but yeah, I think they've got to make a bowl, and I think they've got to probably win 8 games. Feels like.
Is there anybody on that list that when you look at it, you think who could be unexpectedly fired out of nowhere? Like if they had just a horrible year. I'm pretty sure Mark Stoops restructured his contract after flirting with A&M. Like I don't know if there's anybody else on the list.
Here's one that I think that could be legit because it was always questioned to begin with, is Brian Kelly.
Why?
Because you had a Heisman winner and an outstanding offense last year, and I don't think anyone really considered them a great team. They did go 10-4 the year before. But if, like, let's say the defense is really bad still, now again, they have the number 1 quarterback in the country coming in next year. So again, you've got a guy that's coming in, but let's say Nussmeier has a down year. You're talking about unexpected, right? Like a lot of these guys, like Clark Lee and who are some of the others you just mentioned? I mean, some of those guys are Sam Pittman, Napier, like those I think would not be shocking. Brian Kelly's one of those guys just because everyone questioned the fit to begin with. Where I think it would be like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. And is within the realm of possibilities. I mean, I'm not expecting it by any means, but who's the guy you would say? I mean,
like
Shane Beamer.
All those, I think that I think Beamer is because if he loses to Clemson, which they probably should, and they're on the road against Clemson this year. Let me look through the schedule real quick because I got to record a podcast with this afterwards about them. But I mean, dude, like when you look through, there's a lot I think about what they potentially have that I'm excited about. Like Nick Harbor, man, I just cannot wait to see that kid. I'm excited for Lenora Sellers and all those guys. But you look at I'm just going through the Lindy's thing here. South Carolina's picked 13th out of 16 teams, only ahead of Arkansas, Mississippi State, and Vanderbilt. That's not where South Carolina fans want to be. They signed a top 20 class. Now, listen, they also got better up front on the offensive line. And that's the thing that has been plaguing them for a very, very long time. So I love that part. So the receiver room is short of proven talent. They lose Juice Wells to Ole Miss. They lose Xavier Legette to a first-round draft pick to the Panthers. Dude, Nick Harbor. Give that kid the ball and let him go, just make plays for you nonstop.
6'5", 242.
Runs like a 10 flat 100.
That's insane.
So going through here, South Carolina. Now again, they're picked 13th out of 16 teams. Their ranking nationally is 44, according to Lindy's. Like I said, you get Dowell Loggins coming back as your OC. They were 5-7 a year ago in year 3. You lost on the first game on a national stage to North Carolina. Remember, you played Georgia really close, but you got blown out against Tennessee. You lost Florida kind of inexplicably. You got blown out against Mizzou, blown out against A&M. They don't ever beat A&M. Look at the schedule this year. Dude, Old Dominion's not a bad team. Old Dominion was a bowl team last year. They're not bad. At Kentucky week 2, let's not forget that Kentucky beat them 5 out of 6 years in a row. Then you get LSU at home and then Akron. You better be 2-2. It would be very helpful if you're 3-1 in those first 4 games because then you get Ole Miss, at Bama, at Oklahoma, You get A&M at home, but A&M is a team that you've beaten like one time, I think in like 9 or 10 seasons. Then you get at Vandy, you get Mizzou at home, Wofford at home. Like where are the wins, man? Like I can say it on this show. I'm not going to say it on the first episode of me hosting Locked On, but like where are the wins? Like
that would be,
dude. I don't.
Your debut episode
I'm
on
so
Locked On. You're like, guys, I'm just not seeing the wins this year. I mean, I'm looking here. I think ODU could beat you. Akron's got a solid squad. You know, that'd be a phenomenal.
It's gonna be tough. Yeah, but also you get Rocket Sanders, so that's cool.
Yeah,
Nick Harper though, I think Debo Williams. I mean, you got some talent, and you have some talent on the back end too. Like you return like 3 or 4 starters in the secondary, 4 or 5 if you include like the nickel formation. You return 4 or 5 in the offensive line, plus you bring in actual legitimate depth there and some good players. Like you do not return a starter at quarterback through tight end, so you have no returning starters on your skill position players. But listen, good. Man, I think that might be okay. Like I think that might be like maybe it's a positive. You know what I mean? Because like Juice Wells quit on this team a year ago, and some of this like untapped talent that they have, maybe they step up. I'm excited to see it. All right, we gotta end this because you're going in and out. My internet fucking sucks.
Okay. Big 12 media days next week. We already talked about Florida State leaving the ACC. It's going to happen this month. Yeah. So, I mean, we're getting into it, the thick of it. Big 12 media days start next week in Vegas. Do you see who Colorado's bringing as their representatives?
Shadur, Shiloh, and Dion.
They bring 4. So, Shadur,
Shiloh, and Travis
Hunter, and their punter.
Sick.
So, he's probably the only other returning guy on the team, if we're being honest.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, guys. So that is done. You've made it through the Big 12 portion of this podcast. We appreciate that. We'll start diving into the ACC next week. I know you guys are fired up about listening to some Boston College, Virginia Tech talk, but we will get through that as well before we get to the 2 in the Big 4, Big 10 and SEC, and that will lead us right into the start of the season. So for those of you that have tuned in, there's 750 of you live currently. We appreciate that. Don't skip next week. All right.
No.
We'll try to bring the fire. We'll bring the flames. But yeah, man, we are just a couple weeks away from SEC Media Days and the like. So if you're in the chat, 750 of you, go hit like, go hit subscribe. You can obviously listen to this on Apple and Spotify. Chris, anything before we go?
Sorry for the internet. I'll figure it out.
Bye, guys.